Hello, I'm Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity. This is your weekly update. It is Friday, August 25th, 2017. Hey, summer is almost over, and you know what that means? That means the Federal Reserve is meeting in Jackson Hole, or J-Hole as it's called by the people who follow this stuff, because what they're going to do is what you would expect from a J-Hole sort of a meeting. They are going to come out with various statements. They're going to flap their gums, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to find a way to make rich people even richer, because that's what the Federal Reserve does. Remember, they are a redistribution organization. They are a reverse Robin Hood. They take money from everybody, including the poor, and they hand it to an increasingly few very, very, very wealthy people. Remember, it used to be 60-plus people had as much wealth as half the world, and then it was 12, and then it was 8, and this year it is now 5. 5 people in the world have as much wealth as the bottom half of the world. And when you look at these people, are you looking at industrialists who make extraordinary products and build real things? No, they're all people who play with money. They're speculators, they're financiers. They just move digits from one place to the other. That's what the Federal Reserve does. So watch for Janet Yellen to come out, put on her best grandmotherly act, pretend she cares for you when she's actually stabbing you in the back, because that's who she is. That's the organization she represents. There's nothing else they can do about it, because they are in charge. They're charged of and entrusted with one thing: making sure the banking system remains healthy and stable. But we are approaching a moment of incredible instability, and we have to be approaching that moment. You know why? Because you can't print your way to prosperity. Global debt has gone from 150 trillion to close to 250 trillion since the first Great Recession, which happened just a little while ago, and that was the result of earlier Fed mistakes, which was the result of earlier Fed mistakes. But now the Fed is making mistakes with all the other central banks of the world. You don't have to look any further than the crazy asset prices in Europe to know things are so off the rails. There's no way to fix this without an extraordinary amount of pain, economic pain, financial pain coming. That's just how the math works out. Meanwhile, we have a lot of people out there hoping that somehow technology is going to save us. I'm not a big fan of that, because first we have to define what we mean by save us. If what we mean by that is we get to continue living as we just have been without any interruptions or disruptions or changes in our lifestyles, then there are no solutions, because we're facing a predicament. Remember, problems have solutions, predicaments have outcomes. The main predicament we're facing, as always, is that we're living on fossil fuels. We eat them, we transport things with them, and they are finite. And if you want to see something extraordinary in terms of delusions, popular delusions, the madness of crowds, just look at what's happening in the U.S. shale industry. It is a money-losing operation. It has burned cash every single year it's been in operation, without exception, and today is no different. So what would you do if you saw an industry that was burning cash every single year of its existence? Would you throw more money into it? Well, you might if you were an idiot, or if you had no other choice because the Federal Reserve had taken honest-to-God good money-making opportunities out of the equation, had created malinvestment, because what they've done is run interest rates to levels where nobody can survive on them. Not granny, not pensions, not endowments. Everybody who's a saver in this story has been reverse Robin Hooded. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you are a younger person, a millennial, if you are trying to live off of your savings or have your savings mean something, the Federal Reserve has said, "Niet" to you. They've said, we don't like that sort of behavior. What we'd rather do is make sure speculators make out like bandits and heavy-duty borrowers can continue to do what they do, which really means sovereign governments, large corporations, not actually you. So as you watch for the statements coming out of the Federal Reserve this week, watch for the usual things. Magically, stocks will go up. Somehow gold and silver will get hit in prices. Somehow headlines will all be written that the Federal Reserve is on the job and that they're in charge of all of this, when the reality is very easy to discover. The Fed is destroying whole swaths of culture and society to benefit a very few people. Those are the actions. I don't care what the words are. That's the result of the actions that we can track in the data. So that's going to be the big market moving news this week. I've got a big 2-part report about that shale fiasco, that fantasy that we're living. Take a look at it. It will tell you where you can invest in this space if you want to, which includes betting against it, because that, I think, is going to be one of the better bets going forward here in this time. So with that, I'm Chris Martinson. I will see you next week.